Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The security at the entrance wasn't too bad, was it? But a lot of people are still stuck outside. We're talking about cybersecurity in many ways, and many of the people here are instrumental in helping different organizations protect themselves against the threats of cybersecurity in many levels. According to the World Economic Forum, there is a significant surge in the cyber attacks forecast around the world that will probably lead to something like $500 billion of damages around the world. And if you think about it, it's like the 25th largest economy in terms of the cybersecurity threats and security issues around the world. And many of you know this, and many of you are doing the kind of things that are so important to protect and to help. Now, we all know, and I'll repeat it briefly, the financial institutions, the power plants, the water, the energy, the telecom, all of these critical infrastructure are essential, and they are attacked day in and day out by both country regimes and country hackers, and also criminal actors of various levels. And it's time to act, and we came here, many of you came here today not just to talk about this, but to act as well. But one of the fundamental risks that we have to understand is that our fundamental way of government is under attack as well. Democracies are attacked around the world by organizations that are sometimes independent and more often are run and controlled by rogue countries that want to undermine the democracy in some of these countries around the world in a way that questions the validity of democracy in the cyber age. And it is happening as we speak. It is not a theory. People are being arrested in the US in the last few weeks in connection to things that happened there in the elections. People are being arrested in Europe, and it's something that is not a theory anymore. It's happening. The pattern is clear. What you have is you have external actors that are collaborating with internal actors, and political meddling is in the middle of all that, and that's how different elections are being tampered with. In the United States, we are, as we're seeing it now, in 2016, it's coming out. The Democratic National Conventions was hacked, and 30,000 emails were stolen, and this was done by Fancy Bear. It's an organization in Russia which is connected to a military unit, APT-29, that hacked the DNC convention that was orchestrated by Roger Stone, so it is alleged, and together with WikiLeaks, this came out at a very critical moment of the election. This is no longer a theory. This is now being proven by different organizations. It was called Hack and Leak. It had more dramatic influence on the US election than people realized. And in addition to that, there was theft of information, dissemination of truth and information, and in addition to all of that, there were about 416 pages on Facebook that were run with the similar pages were run in St. Petersburg. And these caused an enormous amount of traffic of billions of messages and information that was tampered with, that created a reality that was not real in many of the focus areas of the elections in the United States. It's called fake news, but it's more than that. It's fake reality that was happening during the time of the election in places in the United States which were very vulnerable. In Germany, in 2017, recently, what was happening is that the AfD party, the right-wing, extreme right-wing party in Germany, was getting all of a sudden major voters. And how did that happen? What happened there was a fake orchestration of news that a young girl that actually exists was raped by a Muslim. And this caused one of the largest sets of demonstrations on the street, where people came to the street to demonstrate against this phenomena. And as you can see, save the girl. This didn't happen. This was something that was invented, but it created a reality, including people that were placed in that party to run for the parliament by another government. So this is not theory anymore. It's happening time and time again. And it's happened also with the same pattern. An external agent, an internal agent, fake news, and the creation of a fake reality. Brexit, that we know surprised all of us, in Britain, was tampered by a foreign government, and this time it's another unit, but it's still from the same government. What happened was that in the last days, 48 hours before the actual Brexit, it didn't allow the registration. Now, the analysis was that most of the younger people would register at the last minute because that's how young people act. In the last 48 hours, you could not register to vote. And many people saw the same pattern in France as well. An internal agent collaborating with an external agent. Once again, the same pattern. Hack and leak. Macron's emails were hacked 48 hours before the election. Now in France, you have a ban on having information in the news with respect to the elections 48 hours before that. Well, that organization or that country that tampered with the French elections had tens of millions of bots of information that created the reality in the French election. And being a guest of Macron recently and some of the other people, some of the demonstrations that are happening in the street today in Paris and around France are also fueled by people who are throwing gas on the fire in France in order to create this situation. And so, Cozy Bear and Fancy Bear, which represent two units, the question is, are they coming to Israel anytime soon? Because, you know, on April 9th, we will have our own elections. And I know it's not winter, and bears usually come at winter, but it's still quite a threat. So if you notice what the head of the Shin Bet was just saying, he said that there are foreign countries and organizations that are already here in Israel getting ready to tamper or threatening to tamper in the Israeli election. Now remember the pattern. You have an external agent, you have an internal player, and you have the meddling of information. And is it something that we should be worried about? Well, how is the elections happening and being monitored in Israel? Well, they asked people to protect the elections. Did they ask the police forces, which are an independent organization? No. Did they ask the Shin Bet, which for many years was responsible for this domain. And you have Igal Una here, who was in that organization doing an amazing job to help protect the national infrastructure in terms of cybersecurity attack. Was the Shin Bet called for? No. So who was called for? Well, Israel's National Cyber Directorate, which is a new organization that was just formed and is sitting under the authority of one of the participants in the Israeli elections. It is also responsible for overseeing media, civilian domains, the court of law, and any organizations that need to be monitored and protected. This is their responsibility. Now, in general, it is so moving that they want me to sing. And now, the end is near. I hope not. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a joke. There is a serious threat. The person who was responsible for this organization, not with a law, but with something that's called in Israel, Hora'at Sha'ah, is the chairman of the Likud party, the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. And one of the things that we need to ask ourselves, is this the way to monitor an election? With all due respect, when you have a prime minister which is under criminal investigation that receives the responsibility for the cleanness and the integrity of the Israeli elections. Israel is many things, but it's first and foremost a democracy. And if we are going to protect ourselves, we need to act accordingly. And the solution to this, before there's a national law that organizes how things are done with a new cyber authority, the protection of the Israeli election needs to go back to the Shin Bet and not to other organizations which are acting under, not under a law, but under a temporary decree. And this is something that we need to worry about. And the regulators in the Israeli elections should be acting if we want a clean election. And what I want to see also is I want to see cooperation between different democracies. Because just like in the banking system, there are hackers in one side of the world that we need to intercept by cooperating with information on the other side of the world. We can do the same thing with democracies getting together and protecting themselves. It's democracies in Israel, in the US, in Europe, and the Cyber Center in New York, together with Columbia University's, NYU, EDC, Cornell, CUNY, and others, together with the New York City, together with the US, together with Israel and other European states, we are calling for the protection of privacy, the protections of democracy, in addition to all the other infrastructures that so many of you are so busy in protecting and securing and ensuring the integrity of our lives and our future. Yalla, let's do that, and let's have a clean election in Israel, because there's going to be foreign agents and local agents that are going to try to interfere. Thank you very much.